95.7 The Game.
Yes. It's 95.7 The Game's Joe Shasky, and I'm here to give you my all-time 49er quarterback rankings, my personal list. Let's go 1 through 9. Let's start with number 9. Number 9. Frankie Albert, the lefty, the kid out of Stanford, launched his all-pro career with the San Francisco 49ers in 1946, spent 7 years with the team, short lefty, 5'9", 160 pounds. He invented the bootleg plague. Now, there's not a lot of footage of Frankie Albert, but let's put it this way. When Bill Walsh says you remind him of Steve Young, I'm going to go with Bill Walsh. He was co-MVP of the AAFC with Otto Graham, who's an absolute legend. And his last 2 seasons, he spent competing for the 49er quarterback spot with the famous Y.A. Tittle. Number 13/63, Frankie Albert, a forgotten man, threw for 10,000 yards and 115 touchdowns. That's 4th in touchdown passes in franchise history and still a top 10 passer in 49er yardage all time. Number 9 is Frankie Albert. On to number 8. Let's go to number 8. The number 1 overall pick in 2005, Alex Smith. Following an unbelievable career at Utah, the 49ers select him number 1 overall. And although his second season showed so much promise, he struggled with consistency, feuding with his head coach after the shoulder injury sidelined him, and he never really gained any kind of tractions until Jim Harbaugh arrived in 2011, leading the 49ers to their first NFC West title and playoff win in over a decade, along with the first NFC Championship appearance since 1997. His iconic moment, the final 6 minutes of the New Orleans divisional round game, where he had the run to the left for a touchdown and the Vernon post pass, are going to live in infamy. However, a concussion the following year had Alex Smith losing his starting position to Colin Kaepernick. When it's all said and done, Alex Smith finishes his 49er career with 7th all-time in touchdown passes, 6th in yards, and 5th all-time in 49er history in fourth quarter comebacks and game-winning drives. Alex Smith, a great 49er, derailed by ineptitude at the front office and offensive coordinator positions. It's a darn shame. The woulda, coulda, shoulda, Alex Smith. Number 7, the guy who replaced him, Colin Kaepernick. After graduating from Reno, the 49ers selected Colin Kaepernick in the 2nd round of the 2011 draft. Colin Kaepernick began his football career backing up Alex Smith, but eventually came in after substituting for an injured, concussed Alex Smith in 2012, and basically the team went off. Colin Kaepernick would have pivotal road wins against the New England Patriots and the New Orleans Saints, and led this team to multiple playoff wins, all the way getting to the AFC Championship game in Atlanta, winning on the road down 17-3, and getting to a Super Bowl against the Baltimore Ravens. He fell a little short, going back to the playoffs the final year in his best full season, which was 2013, and he fell short in the iconic 2014 NFC Championship game to the Seattle Seahawks, and one of the greatest plays in Seattle sports history, obviously the Richard Sherman play. Colin Kaepernick ended up losing and winning back his starting job over the next couple of years, and basically the 49ers missed the playoffs over his final 3 years. Colin Kaepernick, for me, is one of the great playoff performers in 49er history. It's just a darn shame that they couldn't maintain stability around him. He finishes his career 8th in touchdown passes, 7th overall in yardage in 49er quarterback history. A darn fine career. And if I needed a playoff win right now, Colin Kaepernick's at the top of the list for me in 49er quarterback lore. Number 6, Jimmy Garoppolo, once selected in the 2nd round of the 2014 draft by the New England Patriots, where he spent 4 seasons backing up Tom Brady. He ended up winning 2 Super Bowls as the understudy to Tom Brady, but he was traded to the 49ers in the middle of the 2017 season, and Garoppolo helped revitalize a dormant organization, took over basically an expansion franchise with zero blue chip players, and they win the final 5 games of the year. Obviously, he hurts himself in 2018, tearing the ACL, and physically never was the same, but he guided this team to one of the great years that 49er fans have had in recent memory, 2019, where they not only win games in the playoffs, they get all the way to a Super Bowl, winning in the final 8 minutes against the Kansas City Chiefs. But eventually they would fall short, and injuries again would derail him in the 2020 season. But he follows it back up with an impressive 2021 where he guides the team again to the NFC Championship game. Although Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't have the comprehensive body of work of some of these other quarterbacks, I think what he inherited and kind of the trials and tribulations that he overcame, his own injuries, I've got him so high on this list. He's 9th in touchdown passes in 49er quarterback history and 8th in yardage, but I'm going to remember all of the winning and the stability that he provided this organization that was absolutely dormant before he arrived. Where do you have Jimmy Garoppolo? Number 5, Jeff Garcia, a 4-time CFL All-Star. Garcia was hand-selected by Bill Walsh out of the Calgary Stampede Canadian Football League as an undrafted free agent. And in 1999, he makes his debut after Steve Young goes down with a concussion. And Garcia goes on to make 3 consecutive Pro Bowl appearances in 2000, 2001, and 2002. His 2002 passing season is still a 49er high since then. And unfortunately, Jeff Garcia couldn't get over the hump in the playoffs. He did have the iconic down big against New York in the wild card round, where he obviously came from behind in the second half and threw a touchdown pass to Ty Streets. He ends his career in a 49er uniform, 5th in franchise history in TD passes, 4th in yards. He was really a comeback kid. Jeff Garcia, much better quarterback than we remembered in real time. Number 4, Y.A. Tittle. Tittle was named the AFC Rookie of the Year with the Colts, but after that organization folded, the 49ers drafted him in the 1951 draft, battled with Frankie Albert, our number 9 on this list, and through 10 seasons in San Francisco, he was invited to 4 different Pro Bowls, led the league in touchdown passes in 1955, and was named the NFL Player of the Year by the United Press in 1957. Tittle famously was a part of the $1 Million Backfield, one of the first professional football players to be featured on the Sports Illustrated cover, and it is credited with coining the term the alley-oop, throwing the ball to R.C. Owens. He finishes his NFL career 5th in yards for the 49ers in franchise history, 6th in touchdown passes. The best of his career probably ended up after being traded to the New York Giants. Nonetheless, his number 14 is retired, and he's in the Hall of Fame. Y.A. Tittle, a famous 49er, and he's 4th on my list. Number 3, a man who I believe gets zero appreciation that he should, John Brodie. I mean, this guy had years with the 49ers, led the league in passing touchdowns, fewest sacks, lowest percentages of pass interception. He retired as the 3rd most prolific passer in NFL history in an era where it was impossible to throw the ball down the field. And he was named the league MVP in 1970, ended up being a 2-time Pro Bowler. John Brodie was the 3rd overall pick in the 57 draft, and he was a limited rookie, but by the time he got his chance, once Y.A. Tittle was traded away, he was the starter from 1961 through 1973. John Brodie, one of the greats in the 1960s. His best statistical year is 1965, where he leads the league in passing and yardage and ends up having a 30-touchdown season for passing, which is one of his first Pro Bowls. After the 65 season, the AFL was trying to lure John Brodie and arranged giving him a big sum of money, and because of guys like him and Mike Ditka and other free agents, you get the AFL-NFL merger to which we see today. He also hosted at Kezar Stadium the first ever NFC Championship game between him and the Dallas Cowboys, led this team to 3 consecutive playoff appearances in the early 70s. He's really a forgotten 49er, one of the all-time greats, and the reason why I have him number 3 overall, he played the most games at quarterback in franchise history. I don't think people remember that properly. 3rd most in wins, 3rd most in touchdowns, 2nd in game-winning drives, and 4th quarter comebacks. John Brodie, an all-time 49er who has been forgotten, and he's number 3 on my list. Number 2, I mean, who other than Steve Young, the lucky lefty? He obviously had a stint in the USFL, was drafted by the Buccaneers, but after the Buccaneers, a year and a half later, select Vinny Testaverde 1st overall in the 87 draft, they feel it's time to move off of him. So Bill Walsh ends up executing a trade for a 2nd and 4th round pick to try to replace the injured Joe Montana at the time. And while he backed up Joe Montana for quite some time, when he got his opportunity, he ended up being the 1992 MVP of the year, MVP of the league, and ended up backing that up in 1994, and then was the Super Bowl MVP in the 94 season, January of 95. His 94 campaign, his MVP year, set a new record for passer rating at 112.8. He is a member of the College Football Hall of Fame and the Professional Football Hall of Fame, and he's just an all-time efficient passer. He led the league in passing rating 6 different times, percentage and yards attempts 5 different times. He's one of the great runners in 49er history, 4th all-time as of 2021 in career rushing yards for a quarterback, 5th all-time in touchdowns for a quarterback, 2nd in franchise history in yards, 2nd in touchdowns, 3rd in games played in 49er quarterback history. He's my number 2 on the 49er all-time quarterback list, which leaves us at number 1. And who could it be? Well, it's got to be Joe Montana, the GOAT. After winning the national championship at Notre Dame, starts his career in 1979 as a third-round pick out of the 49ers, and he doesn't start right away. But when he gets his opportunity, goes on to not only win the Super Bowl with the 49ers in 1981, he ends up being named Super Bowl MVP not once, not twice, but 3 separate times. He holds Super Bowl career records for most passes without an interception. He's the all-time highest passer rating in a Super Bowl with 127, and Montana ends up winning 4 Super Bowls. 4 Super Bowls. He was an MVP multiple times over. And obviously, without his career highlight, the play that we all think of, the catch, the 49ers aren't the organization that we think of today. His number 16 is retired by the 49ers. He's earned a spot on the 75th anniversary all-time team. He's a member of the all-80s decade team. And multiple publications have listed him as the number 1 clutch quarterback of all time. His 4 Super Bowls, 3 Super Bowl MVPs, 2-time MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year, first-team All-Pro, 8-time Pro Bowl selection, led the league in passing twice, led the league in passer rating twice, and was the highest percentage in terms of completion 5 separate times. And his 14-5 playoff record has solidified Joe Montana as not only one of the NFL greats, he is the greatest 49er quarterback of all time. There's no doubt about it. Joe Montana finishes his career number 1 in touchdowns, number 1 in career yards, and number 1 in our hearts. Number 16 is my number 1. So to recap, number 9, we got Frankie Albert. Number 8, we got Alex Smith. Number 7, Colin Kaepernick. Number 6, Jimmy Garoppolo. Number 5 is Jeff Garcia. Number 4 is Y.A. Tittle. Number 3, John Brody. Number 2, Steve Young. And number 1 is number 16, Joe Montana. Where do your quarterbacks rank? I think everybody agrees number 1 and number 2 are pretty much locked in. Where do you have Jimmy Garoppolo? If this is it for Jimmy G, where do you have him? Where do you have Colin Kaepernick? Where do you have Alex Smith? I mean, we're splitting hairs on a lot of these things. I think if I had a playoff game tomorrow, I might go Colin Kaepernick over Jimmy Garoppolo and Alex Smith. But if we're talking body of work and what they meant to the organization, plus the team that they inherited at that time, I think that context matters. It's a personal list. Leave a comment below, hit subscribe, like the post, and tell me, who are your all-time 49er quarterbacks? Have a good one.